Ash from Super Videos back at you for another video. This video is going to be my review and discussion for 709, which was called Rock in the Road. So this episode basically picked up exactly where we left off at the end of 708, which was basically seeing the mysterious boot-wearing character watching over Alexandria and Father Gabriel. So in this episode we actually have the rest of that. So it starts with Gabriel, and we see basically Father Gabriel noticed something. I'm not sure exactly if he actually noticed something or if it was just the way it was shot, but then he goes down, he goes and takes all of the supplies, all of the food, all of the limited weapons that they have, and he stacks it up, puts it in a car and leaves. Now that was a strange opening scene. I'm not sure where Father Gabriel went or what happened to him. I'm gonna do a separate video just for that, but it was just a very strange opening scene. But it was good because it got me thinking what is happening with Gabriel and things like that. So I did enjoy it, but it was a bit strange. Then, of course, we come back and it's basically the conversation or the meeting between Gregory and Rick and the others who have just come to the Hilltop, and Rick is basically asking Gregory to join them in the war. Of course, Gregory, being the coward he is, he doesn't want to join in at all, and he just wants to do what he can to stay out of trouble and do what the saviors want. Of course, the other characters really try to push him, but Gregory, being the ass he is, he just does not want to do this because of his own safety, basically. He may say that it's for the safety of his people, but it's really for his own safety, in my opinion. But then there's some great lines between Gregory, Rick, and also Tara and Daryl. They kind of burn each other a little bit throughout the conversation they have, which was pretty funny. But then when Rick finally realizes that he can't make Gregory do what he wants, or he can't have Gregory join in because he just doesn't want to, then he just leaves. And then they're just talking about the other alternatives they have. And of course, Enid walks in and says, "Come outside and check this out." We see they go out and there's a bunch of the Hilltoppers that are going to join in, and it looks like they have some reinforcement at the Hilltop as well. Now it's great because we are seeing some more faces from the Hilltop. Of course, the Hilltop has been very light, hasn't been that crowded up until this point. So it's good to finally see some Hilltoppers other than Gregory and Jesus. It's actually pretty cool as well because one of the people that's there is the person from the Hilltop that got into a scuffle with Abraham, if you remember, back in season 6. So that was very cool as well. So it looks like Patrick and the others have at least some more fighters at the Hilltop that are willing to fight, which is pretty cool. And then right after that, we basically get the first sneak peek we got, where Rick is basically telling them that we need more people, that the geography works against us and things like that. And Daryl wants to blow the saviors all up. And of course, Tara saying there's non-fighters as well and things like that, which was pretty cool. I have that in my sneak peek discussion, so I won't go into more detail here. But that was pretty cool. And then, of course, Jesus ends with, "It's time for you to meet Ezekiel, King Ezekiel," which is basically straight off the comics. And I just love how Rick says King Ezekiel. So it's like, can't quite wrap his head around the idea of someone calling themselves king in this world, which is pretty cool. Then we have Jesus taking Rick and the others to the kingdom. We have Tara, we have Sasha, Rosita, we have Carl, we have Daryl, we have Rick himself, we have Michonne. I think that's everyone. I don't know if I'm missing anyone, but I think that's it. And they basically get to the area of the kingdom, not quite at the kingdom, but at the edge of the kingdom, as Jesus calls it. And then they basically watch Richard and another kingdomer ride on horses, and they basically come to see what's happening, which is pretty cool. And then we have a conversation between Jesus and Richard, which was pretty cool as well. And we basically get Richard to accept a meeting between Rick and the others and the king, or King Ezekiel, which is pretty cool as well. Then, of course, there's this certain scene with Jesus and Richard when they're walking back, and Jesus tells Richard, I don't see you smile a lot, but I think that's going to change today, which is pretty cool. So it's like Jesus knows that they're going to talk about fighting back against the saviors with King Ezekiel, and he knows that Richard is on the side of wanting to fight back as well. So it's like this meeting is probably going to be something that is going to make Richard smile. So that was pretty cool. We have them getting to the kingdom, and we have Morgan reunited with the group, which was very cool, very emotional. It was very awesome. And we have Rick and Morgan reunite as well. Now, I was anticipating a more emotional scene at that point, but I didn't see any of that. Morgan and Rick were kind of like, yeah, so whatever. So it felt a little awkward, I want to say. So it felt like they didn't really care. Neither Rick nor Morgan didn't care about seeing one another again after however long it's been. I wanted to see a bit more of that, but it was cool seeing them all reunited. And of course, we have Morgan telling the others about what happened with him and Carol and the Savior and things like that, back from season 6, episode 16, of course. And we have Morgan saying that Carol was shot. Him and some other kingdomers brought her here. They took care of her, and then she went away. So Morgan didn't tell Rick and the others that Carol is still around at that cabin. He just said that she's okay. So it seems like Morgan is keeping his promise to Carol to not tell anyone about where she is, which is pretty cool as well. So then we have the group coming in, finally meeting King Ezekiel, which was pretty cool. I love that scene with Jesus saying, yeah, I forgot to say that King Ezekiel has a tiger as well. It's like the exact same thing with Morgan and Carol when Carol was coming to meet Ezekiel for the first time, so it was pretty cool. Just watching their reaction to seeing a tiger in that world or in that situation was pretty cool. And of course, after Rick tells them about them all serving the saviors and things like that, we have Ezekiel kind of saying that he doesn't really want to join in, or at that point, it's more like he's going to think about it, but it's not that positive from his side. So he's like, I'll think about it, but you're more than welcome to stay right now and leave tomorrow, but I can't make a decision right now. I have to think about it. But then we have Ezekiel asking Morgan, what do you think about this? And then Morgan saying that people are going to die and things like that. And at that point, there's this shot of Rick and he's just shaking his head, and I just love that. And it seems like Rick is thinking to himself, again, Morgan is going to disagree with this and there's going to be conflict between us. So it was pretty cool that that whole thing played out. And then of course we have Ezekiel saying that there's peace now. I wouldn't want to change that, but again, like I said, he said that he's going to think about it, which was pretty cool. We have Rick telling Ezekiel and the others about the story of the rock in the road, which was an amazing story. I loved that narrative, and I loved how he basically made another leader, King Ezekiel, listen to him and kind of give a speech to a selected group from a new community, which was pretty cool. And then right after, Rick finishes with the there's gold or whatever. And then we have Jerry saying something. I'm not quite sure what he said, but he said something along the lines of that's pretty cool or something like that. But it was funny, and it's just the typical thing that Jerry would say. And then of course we have the conversation between Ezekiel and Benjamin telling Ezekiel that you have to help them fight back against the saviors and things like that. So that was pretty cool as well. It kind of builds on the character development they're doing for Benjamin, so that was pretty cool. But then of course the day after, we have Ezekiel delivering the message. He doesn't want to go to war with the saviors, so saying that he is not willing to fight, which obviously does not sit well with Rick and the others. And we have Daryl even kind of calling Ezekiel out for calling himself a king but not acting like one, which was pretty cool to see. And of course we have Ezekiel saying that Daryl can stay at the kingdom for as long as he wants, because of course the saviors are going to be looking for him. He can't stay at Alexandria, so they're saying that he can stay, which was pretty cool. And then right after, we have Daryl basically saying his goodbyes and he's going to stay. Of course, he didn't want to stay initially, but Rick kind of told him that there's no other way. You know that this is the only way that's going to work, so you have to stay. So that was pretty cool as well. Then we have them leaving on their way back, and It's basically the second sneak peek that we got. We just got it like a couple days ago, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that either, but I just love that whole thing with Rick saying that we have to move the cars, move them back. They don't need to know you are here. So it's like Rick is gaining his confidence again and he's thinking smart once more, which is pretty cool. And then of course we have the dynamite, which was a pretty intense scene. Of course, Rosita knowing a bit about how to disarm the dynamites, which was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that Abraham had something to do with teaching her about this stuff, which is pretty cool. But then we have that first base trigger being disarmed, and then we have the rest of the group just trying to cut the other parts of the dynamite so they can take it back with them, because of course it's explosive. It's going to be very helpful and useful in the conflict that's going to be coming up. That whole sequence was pretty cool. But then in the radio, what I love is we have Negan talking to Simon over the radio about Fat Joey's death. And it's cool that even when Negan is not on screen, even when it's just a dialogue like that, he still makes us laugh. And then we have Negan kind of saying that he liked Fat Joey and things like that. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting Negan to be more outraged by Fat Joey's death, but maybe this is just the aftermath and he's cooled down a little bit. But I still want to see that. So even if there's a way for us to get that interaction when Negan first finds out that Daryl escaped and Fat Joey is dead, that would be amazing. Even if it's like a flashback scene or a quick flashback scene, it would be pretty amazing. I would really like to see that. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is the whole roadblock thing. Because of course, as Carl says, the saviors put these explosives in. If a herd is coming, then these explosives are gonna blow them up and it'll be a quick, efficient way to get rid of these walkers, which was pretty cool. Now, of course, the roadblocks are something that the saviors do a lot. If you remember back in season 6, episode 16, the same sort of cat and mouse roadblock thing was used against Rick and the others. So it's cool how they're reusing that, and the saviors are using roadblocks as a strategy to deal with danger and deal with both walkers and also other survivors. So that's pretty cool. Then we have the herd coming in. That whole sequence with Rick telling the others that they have time and they can still take some of these dynamite out before the walkers get there was pretty tense. It was pretty awesome. I loved it. And then we have the epic scene with the plan. Michonne, Rick, each with their own vehicles, with this rope thing in the middle, or this wire, whatever you want to call it. And then they start driving and they chop off the walkers as they're driving. So it's like boom, 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 boom. All of the walkers are just falling down. That whole scene was pretty amazing. I loved that scene. It was pretty epic. I think that was the highlight of the episode, that specific sequence. So I really loved it. And then, of course, right after they leave and they're a good distance away from the herd, we have the explosive, which is pretty amazing. And right before that, we have Rick trying to get to the vehicle, and there's a point where all of the walkers are surrounding him. So that scene was pretty epic. It looked like they were going to get Rick at any time. Of course, we knew that they wouldn't, but it was still pretty epic, pretty tense. So it was awesome. And then right after they are safe, when they're in the car, they're driving, we have Michonne hugging Rick and saying, "We're the ones who live." Now, if you remember, Michonne said the same thing back in 708 at the end of the episode to Rick. So it's like something that she tells him that they're going to survive and things like that. But what's very interesting is the connection this has to what happens in the comics. So, slight spoiler here for the comics, but in the comics, if you remember, for those of you who have read the comics, the tower scene, we have Andrea, who's of course the equivalent of Michonne in the TV show right now, being Rick's love interest. There's a specific thing that happens, and then Andrea says the exact same thing. We're the ones who live. We don't die. So it's cool that they're putting this early on, and they're foreshadowing that thing which is going to be coming up, which is pretty cool. And if I'm going to guess, I'm guessing that it's going to happen at the end of this season, so at the finale. But whenever it happens, it's a pretty cool foreshadowing of that thing that's going to happen. I'm trying to be as spoiler free as I can, but for comic readers, you definitely know what I'm talking about. And then, of course, we have Rick and the others getting back to Alexandria, and then Simon and the Saviors coming there and trying to take a look and see where Daryl is. And I like how Rick is playing dumb and acting like he doesn't know what's going on. So that was pretty cool. Of course, Simon and the Saviors don't find anything, but they give them an ultimatum that whenever Daryl is back, you have to tell us or people are going to die. So that was pretty awesome. I love Stephen Ogg in this episode. He did a phenomenal job. I felt the tensity. I felt like it was very tense. And it was very dark in a way, even though Negan was not there. So it's cool how Simon is kind of filling up Negan's position. And it's like when Jeffrey Dean Morgan is not there, it's all on Stephen Ogg's shoulders to kind of carry the burden of making the Saviors look tough. So that was pretty cool, and I think Stephen Ogg did an amazing job in that scene, and he really made us feel fear in that moment, which was pretty cool. And then, of course, we have Rick finding out that Father Gabriel took all of the supplies and left. Now, I love that Rick doesn't think that he ran away, that he was the coward and ran away. And Rick says that Gabriel wouldn't do such a thing. I know Gabriel. So it's like Rick has slowly changed his opinions about Gabriel, and he really trusts Gabriel at this point, which was pretty cool. But then they find this note that says boat, and it basically gives them the idea that Gabriel took all of the stuff back to the boat that they were at back in 708. But the thing is, how does Gabriel know where that boat is? So it's really weird. Now, the only thing that I can think of is somehow the mysterious boot-wearing person who was watching Gabriel maybe coming in and some sort of altercation or something like that, and then leaving the note and leaving. But we didn't see any of that. I'm not sure what happened with Gabriel. They're definitely going to have to explain what happened with Gabriel and why he went to the boat area in the first place, because he didn't know about it. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to do a separate video on that, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And then, of course, they get back to the boat area, and then they track some boots, again, connected to the mysterious boot-wearing person, maybe even just not being the same person, but connects to that, and then they leave, and they get to this junkyard area, which is basically connected to the boot-wearing person or the junkyard community. And then we have these people just coming in and surrounding Rick and the others. And that scene was also very well done. I think it was tense and it was great. Now, the only thing I don't understand is why Rick was smiling at the end. So right before the episode ends, Rick cracks a smile. I'm not sure why that happens. Does he think that they are good guys, or what leads him to think that they're good guys? They could very well be the Saviors, or they could very well be a community that has malicious ideas. So I'm not sure why Rick was smiling at that moment, but the whole sequence was pretty cool. But overall, I enjoyed the episode. It was a bit slower than I anticipated, but it didn't really bother me that much. In terms of a rating, I would give the episode a mid-low grade rating. It wasn't bad at all. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. Not bad at all. In fact, for a mid-season premiere, I think it was okay. Now, it was a bit weaker with regards to other mid-season premieres from the past seasons, but I think just seeing some of these interactions and meeting with these new people and kind of seeing the conversations and the story coming together was pretty well done, and it made it worth it. Even though the episode was a bit slower, it was great. And again, it wasn't a standalone episode. We got glimpses of each community, which was pretty cool. And I think if they do that in every episode, even if there isn't really too much there and it's just a bit of a slower episode, it's still gonna feel like a good episode like this one. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.